This weekend, I got to thinking while I was smoking up some ribs. Look at those things right there. Also, I found some Eagle Rare in California, which never happens, I guess because Canada doesn't want our bourbon anymore. I was cooking up these ribs, and they were the best ribs I'd ever cooked, 75% of the time. I do wish this was a cooking channel. I'm sorry, especially with all the stuff going on. I wish I had a barbecuing YouTube channel. I think it's too late. I was cooking these perfect ribs when 4 cop cars pulled into our neighborhood. The neighbor across the street is a huge Donald Trump supporter. Same with his wife. Probably same with all the cops that pulled in. You can say a lot of things about me, but I'm a good host, right? And I had some friends over to eat these ribs again. These perfect ribs. So I went out there to see what was going on because we're all sitting in the backyard. It's a Trump supporter, you know. Who knows? Probably some guns involved, right? Plus, there was 4 cop cars full of cops pulling up, you know? So I went out there and I went to ask the cop, do we need to look out for strays? 100% the cop turns to me and he says, nah, this is just standard domestic stuff. Pretty standard. Husband kicked his wife in her pussy. Then the cop took a second to realize what he had just said, what he had just called standard. He said, hey, that's kind of weird. That I think that's a standard day, isn't it? And I said, yes it is. Yes, it is, officer. And I would have offered him one of my baby back ribs, but he's a cop, as forementioned. So that would be cannibalism on his part. This whole thing got me thinking about the Republican Party's relationship with women. Trump is the new Adolf. Welcome to the Chud Report. I'm your host, MJ. If you end up liking this video, make sure you like and subscribe. If you've been here a long time, you like this content, you want to help out some more, you want to show some more support, you could become a member. But let's get into it. Donald Trump, 2 months in, he says, you gotta forget about the price of eggs. That's not what's important anymore, right? From these same people. This Republican Party, what are they prioritizing? Oh, they're prioritizing freeing Andrew Tate, a sex trafficker, right? Right here. Dana White rushing up to give him some love. Look at him hugging over there. Andy Tate. If you want to use my box up there, my suite, to slap around some of these girls you're trafficking, they get out of control. It's where I beat my wife, so it's proven. I even slap Zuckerberg around a little bit in that box when he gets a little bit out of control. You can go ahead. Head on up there. If you're not in this culture, kind of a weird guy to be excited to see. Kind of a weird guy to personally greet at your event. You know, these Republican influencers right here, they were given binders. They were given binders full of blank paper, and they pretended it was some unreleased Epstein file, right? Shower boy Jim Jordan, he sent out a Rickroll in place of Epstein's actual victims, in place of what these people were LARPing in these binders, right? Listen to me, there's cynical, there's nihilistic, and then there's Rickrolling on files about a pedo who had an entire island dedicated to trafficking girls. Hello, Andrew Tate. It's good to see you. If Epstein was around, I imagine Dana White would run up to give him a hug too. Before I left the cesspool of Facebook, for years, these low effort posts by the most moronic people I know on Facebook. All they would write is, save the children, as if they were doing something, right? This was the precursors that would get them into QAnon. And then all these conspiracies. Pizzagate. Like I said, QAnon. All these investigators follow the breadcrumbs, as they say, only to be built up to getting rickrolled, right, by the Republican Party. I mean, it's kind of a hilarious character arc if it wasn't for the fact that the Republican Party put a Rickroll up for victims of Epstein. Once you include that, it's not that funny anymore. And what cult could be so insulated that something like this, that Jim Jordan would even think something like this would fly? Well, here you go.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.
Lots of phony stuff. So it turns out Trump has already seen the files that these people LARPed were in their binders. He'd already seen them. And he concluded it could affect a lot of his friends' lives. Even maybe his, Trump once praised Epstein as a terrific guy who likes women on the younger side. He's got frequent flyer miles on the jet. Now, I'm not going to release those. I'll release JFK. I'll release 9/11. But no Epstein files, right? And if you bring this up to the Chuds, if you've ever brought this up to them, they have a whole made-up story with no source to it. It just got floated around, probably started by someone like Charlie Kirk, where they say, oh, Trump booted Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. He got so mad at him once he found all this out. The guy who said he likes women on the younger side. The guy here who said, I'm not going to release all the files because that could affect my friends' lives. Save the children, they used to yell. Bill Barr was in charge of the Department of Justice when Epstein died in federal custody at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York in August 2019. Donald Trump was president. Epstein's death was officially ruled a suicide, but it was surrounded by suspicious circumstances, including broken cameras and a guard falling asleep. How convenient, right? Save the children. Barr's dad, Donald Barr, was the headmaster at Dalton School in the 1970s and hired Jeffrey Epstein to teach math and physics despite Epstein's lack of a college degree. So weird, it's almost like Epstein had blackmail on these people. The same blackmail that is not in any of those folders, not behind this link, because that's a Rickroll. And how appropriate for the morons, the low-effort morons online who think they're part of something, who think they're helping, right? To have it end right here, because this is where it's ending. No, I'm not releasing all the files. That would ruin my friends' lives. 65% of non-college educated white women said, I want this man right here, Donald Trump. I want this man in charge of my body. 42% of college-educated white women said, I don't want to control my body. 42% of college-educated white women voted for Trump. And it brings me back to this, right? My neighbor getting kicked in the pussy. The next day, she had an ice pack on her vagina. She was in the backyard. You could see her. An ice pack. And this channel lately, I agree. So a couple things, a couple trends have been happening on this channel. And this kind of plays into both of them. The first trend is people ask me, right? They keep asking me, they say, when's it going to break? When are the Chuds going to finally break away from this and realize they're being played? And the second thing we keep getting into is very on-the-nose metaphors, right? But my MAGA neighbor waking up with a hangover and a bruised pussy just seems so apt for the modern Republican woman voter. So why vote away your rights if you're a woman? And I can already hear it. I can already hear someone on the far left yelling at me. Don't mansplain to me, mansplainer. Try not to mansplain, all right? Calm down. Calm down, gender studies. I know white men are still worse, but we're only 4% worse. In the 2024 U.S. presidential election, Trump received substantial support from white men without college degrees. Exit polls indicate that 69%, just 4% more than those women, of the demographic voted for Trump. So yes, white men are still the hemorrhoid on the ass of democracy. I'm not here to argue that. But women, white uneducated women, educated too, you are no longer a polyp. You are also a hemorrhoid. You're just a 4% smaller hemorrhoid. And when it comes to hemorrhoids, what's 4% really? I mean, a hemorrhoid is still a hemorrhoid, even if it's 4% less, right? So it's a perspective I'm about to give you, and I have some data to back it up. I'm not here to try to mansplain, and if I say something stupid or wrong about women, just write it in the comments, come after me, okay? First off, many of the women I know who support Trump are religious. And it was so seamless, almost terrifyingly seamless, how quickly they supplanted their religious God, worshiping that God, to worshiping a political party. They supplanted the inaction of going to church. You might not call it an inaction, I do, but they supplanted going to church and praying real hard that things would happen. They supplanted that for a party that did action out in the real world with consequences, an action that enabled starving kids. And if you guys know some of the same Christians as I know, Christians, I'm a Christian, they justify that by saying, those kids are overseas. That's not our God's problem. That's the overseas God's problem, right? The overseas department has to do it, not Republican Jesus. Republican Jesus is drafting up tariffs. And just a couple days later, it came out, guess what? They're cutting food for American kids. But they're poor, so it doesn't matter. That's how they justify that. I mean, when did Jesus ever talk about feeding poor kids in this country? That's not what he was about, not Republican Jesus. And it leads to this book right here. This is what's currently circling Republican Christian circles. And we always knew it would get here. Republican religious figures argue that empathy, defined as an act of fully immersing oneself in another's emotions, can lead individuals away from objective moral standards. They suggest that while sympathy allows one to understand another's feelings without losing moral grounding, empathy might cause one to adopt another's emotions, potentially leading to compromised moral judgment. If you put yourself in that kid's shoes who's starving, and you think I should try to fix that, that clouds your moral judgment. This dude wrote a whole book on it. 350 pages to make you feel better about being an asshole. Just a quick recap. Their religion forces a raped 13-year-old girl. A raped 13-year-old girl who they don't know and they definitely don't want to feed. Their religion forces her to give birth to her attacker's baby. And if they feel anything for it, if they try to put themselves in her shoes, this 350 pages, The Sin of Empathy, they're actually sinners. They're the ones sinning. That's where we're at in 2025. These are the people that you want me to talk to. These are the people you want me to have conversations about, right? I mean, conversations with. You can have a lot of conversations about them. Critical thinking isn't taught till college. And as we know, that hurdle gets higher and higher, right? All these people, these non-educated, they have no critical thinking. They were never taught to think critically. But MAGA thinking is now taught within the religion. And it's a difference between thinking literal and fantastical. And the fact that this book exists says that they know exactly what they're doing. You start understanding someone's suffering, then bam! Right? You're helping the homeless instead of criminalizing it to be homeless. Men and women within this party. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people that want to make themselves feel better, right? For being terrible human beings, for not helping out, for not living up to their religious standards that they've set for themselves, right? And the price they'll pay is the agenda of anyone that plays into this persecution complex. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of people that want to be seen as good people. Good Christians. We're good Christians. We go to church. They want to be seen that way, but they don't want to act that way. And books like this give them an out. They can read 350 pages, feel better about themselves, while still engaging, while still being a part of their persecution fetish. And this kind of thinking isn't attached to a certain generation and a certain group of people. I mean, just look at Tradwives, right? You take cultural nostalgia. The 1950s. The 1950s was the best time to be alive. How much were the richest people getting taxed? How much did Elon Musk pay this last year? The 1950s, you take a political ideology. You take this MAGA, this extremism. You take Christian extremism where sin is an empathy. And then you tie in social media influence. And what does it do? It takes these unimpressive people. It gives them an identity, a purpose, And the only price they have to pay is sacrificing their entire personality and molding it to men. But it's not just religious women. Some of the women cry they did it for the economy. I'm worried about the economy. We need to get back on track. And so in these exit polls, they say the reason I voted for Trump was the economy. Now, they could be lying. They could be covering something else up. But look, if you take them at their word, how's that working out for them? $5 trillion in a week. That's how much we've lost in value to the stock market, right? And since there's morons out there that can only think in units of eggs, that's 25 trillion eggs for the morons out there. So we've lost this country's value in the stock market. My 401k, it has a disclaimer now before I open it. It has a little thing that says, stocks go up and down. Don't off yourself off of this. That's how bad it's gotten. In units of eggs that you could understand, this country has lost 25 trillion eggs. And if you still don't get what happened this last week, self-inflicted wound for no reason, if you still don't get it, here, I'll do like a picture book for you. Here's Biden's economy. Look at it. Here's my 401k from the last 2 to 3 years. It's robust. It's curvy. It's full. It's insatiable. And an endless shrimp night at the restaurant, right? Now here's my 401k. Here are my stocks under Trump in just, oh my God, in just 2 months. My 401k is on Ozempic. But if we assume that chudettes have made it this far into the video, I doubt any of this even matters at this point. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna, I just gave them the best visualization ever with someone they know, but they're not gonna get it because being in this MAGA cult is all about vibes. It's not about actual issues. Like every cult, everyone in that community is scared to break away. They're scared without this, this common persecution they feel, that they'll no longer have this community, right? I mean, even Elon's AI right here, Grok, is too smart to repeat the propaganda. Maybe he needs to slap a red hat on it. Bring it down a few notches. Since World War II, Democrats have outperformed Republicans on the economy. GDP growth averages 4.23% under Dems and 2.36% under GOP, nearly double. Job creation, 1.7 yearly for Dems, 1.1% for Republicans. Also, 9 of the last 10 recessions started under Republican Party presidents. Data speaks louder than party lines. That's what Elon Musk on his propaganda app that he used to force in a president. That's what his AI says. I'm sure he's going to fix it after seeing this. Religion, the economy. Trump women voters also cite personal and family safety. Concerns about crime, national security can lead women to support Republican candidates who emphasize law enforcement and strong defense policies. Okay, I can see that. Support the blue line, the thin blue line. They believe these stances provide a safer environment for their families, provided those families don't live in a red state, right? Look at this. 11 of the top 12 most dangerous places where people are shot and killed are red states, right? Deep red states. Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina, and Oklahoma. I don't even know when the last time a Democratic president won any of these. You are 3 times more likely to get shot in one of these states than me out here in this hellhole in commie California. Another issue that's all about critical thinking, which they do not learn, versus vibes, versus or including a persecution complex. We gotta take crime seriously. It's a serious issue to serious people. Vandalize a Tesla. Or maybe even, get in a car wreck with a Tesla. And have that person that you wrecked into say that you intentionally did it. They intentionally hit my car, right? And you know what that'll make you? You are Timothy McVeigh if you do that. If you run into a Tesla. You are Timothy McVeigh. You are a domestic terrorist. That's what Trump's saying. That's where we're at. I voted because I was concerned with crime, with safety. These people attacked the Capitol. I know you're probably sick of hearing it. You're probably sick of me saying it. But they got a blanket pardon. But if you scratch a Tesla, yeah, you're going to Gitmo for the rest of your life. So to that lady, that neighbor, icing down her vagina, who's scared, crime is out of control. You're already 3 times safer than these red states just by living in California. You're already 3 times safer, except from, I guess, vagina kicks. And speaking of that, she was icing her lips, her fat lips, I guess. I don't know. And her husband was sitting right there with her. Cults need to be cut off from the real world to function, right? This isn't something getting rid of Fox News at this point will accomplish, because after all, Fox News, the purpose of Fox News has passed. Fox News was supposed to radicalize these people, get them in this group, keep them radicalized so that they could profit off them, and then all their buddies could make money off of them in politics without them knowing any better. These people have outgrown the purpose of Fox News, right? And what they've done is they started fitting into these subcultures. These subcultures where they actually don't even try to seek a fact anymore. They don't want to know the facts, right? They're actively against it. And if one ever gets through to them, if one slips through these bubbles, multiple bubbles now, they're not a Fox News bubble. Fox News is the top bubble, and it goes about 50 more bubbles down. But if somehow a fact gets through all those bubbles, all 51 of those bubbles, and slaps them in the face, they will still reject it. I would never kick my wife in her vagina because I love her, I respect her, and I was brought up right. Yeah. But hypothetically, if I did that at this amazing barbecue, let's look at those ribs one more time. Look at that. Oh man, they were good. Hypothetically, if I did that, she sure as shit wouldn't be hanging out with me the next day. She's independent and her affirmations don't depend on me or even the communities we're part of, because she's smart. She's successful on her own, right? She doesn't need that crutch. And also, if my friends saw me kick her in her vagina, they would no longer be my friends, even if I had a pretty good excuse. Like, oh, I thought there was a bee on it. They would no longer be my friends. They would line up and they would take turns kicking me in the balls, which doesn't matter because, I on a side note, I have the strongest balls this side of the Mississippi, but they would still kick me in those strong, impenetrable balls. That ice pack isn't just treating an injury. It's numbing the realization that this is exactly what happens when you vote against your own self-interest over and over for decades and decades. From Fox News to the Facebook memes to the full-blown cult status. We've watched this radicalization. If you're around my age, you've watched this radicalization unfold over the course of your life. But now we're watching it in our neighborhoods, right? One domestic call at a time. One bruised metaphor. One pussy kicked at a time. The Chud Report. Thank you for watching. I hope I didn't mansplain too much. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the members. Helping out this channel. Keeping us going. Keeping episodes coming up. Yeah, I mean, last week I tried to put up some stuff, but man, like I said, it's just too crazy. Right? So I decided to do a little something different here. It's very, very hard to satirize a president who's literally selling Teslas, who's literally a car salesman for the guy that gave him $250-300 million for his campaign. It's really hard to make satire out of that because we're already there. In fact, it almost seems like we should give irony and satire a break for a while and get back to some reality that we can then again satirize down the road. But, that's just my opinion. Anyway, that's all I got for you.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know it. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others.